Or ano lang, i-shake lang siguro yung camera para mag-realign.
Ayun.
Yan.
Tiga. Sandali lang, please.
So for you, Ed, how long have you been hosting this? For
Sorry?
your group, how long have you been hosting this? Itong ganito.
What do you mean? No, ito naman, once in a while lang naman, di ba? Kasi nga, I'm not naman but only because that's part of my job naman talaga sa banker, di ba? So, I have I'm involved in so many advocacies and presentations. So.
Okay. I see Mark did. You've been, Mark, almost every week ata.
Hindi naman.
Hindi naman.
Just paminsan-minsan.
Yeah, Mark was sharing with me, I think a week ago, 4 hours ba? No, so I think 1 hour and a half lang siguro. No, and just to get the conversation going, and then we could schedule more. No?
Yes,
we will take it from there.
Oo. Kasi nga, in fact, ang reaction sa akin ng mga iba, sige, they'd like to hear your thoughts also on these new things that sila Bill Gates are doing, these mini plants,
SMRs.
They're interested in those things also nga.
Yes, no, but I think we were discussing this a while ago, Mark and I, and the BNPP is the end. It's not the be all and end all. It's just the start, and it will open that window, to greater things. I think it's like when you jump into the water, diba? No, kung malamig yung tubig, you hesitate, but once you jump in, then you're fully committed. And I think that's what BNPP would stand for.
Yep. That's why nga, basta, kasi part of the invited list, at least I have the DMCI and the MVP group attending. So
is George coming?
John is going, and then George.
Okay.
And then Ray. I was with them last night. So sila they're interested not only to us because they believe in it, but I think sila MVP sorry.
From a business viewpoint.
Yeah, from a business, and even from an investor perspective. But sila, they're looking at they're interested in SMRs, or they're even interested in bringing it into let's say Semirara. They're open to that.
Yes. No, because I think one of the advantages of Tuma SMR, is since they're small enough and they're not too expensive, you could set them up on islands.
Yes,
you get rid of your transmission cost and
correct.
So many other items. Just a FYI lang. Yung Cojuangco, they're married to a cousin of my wife. Si George and Cesar. In fact, Tagan is very close to my brother and to my wife, and he just passed away.
I see.
A few months ago.
Right. Anyway, just like to acknowledge, kapapasok lang a good friend, si Bert Mendoza, and another good friend, si Ernie Pantango. Ernie, good morning. Bert, good morning.
Good morning. Rufy, Virata.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We're honored to have so many people. I was sharing with Edgar. Kuminsan kami ni Mark, we're like voices in the wilderness. Mark has been at this for 13 years. Ako nga 2 years. Because just a little bit about my background. Balikbayan ako. Me and my wife, we've been gone for almost over 40 years now. But
hindi mo na may edit kasi nag-enter
we do come back. We do come back almost every year. One of my frustrations is I've helped set up factories all over the world. All over China, 3 factories in China, India, Italy, Germany.
Rufy, got cut?
Yeah. Hi. Good morning.
Hi, Ernie.
Morning.
Ernie.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello. Good morning.
Yeah.
Ernie, what are aside from MAP Energy, technically, ba you retired na from EDC?
Sorry?
You retired na from EDC, Ernie?
Yeah, I retired from the.
Did you retire na
group.
from EDC? The EDC group,
Yeah.
Lopez Group?
First group, yeah, 3 years ago, 2017. So technically, I'm a gentleman farmer in Lipa. But
Parehas tayo.
but still active in the energy circles.
Talaga?
I attend.
Am I back online? I may have to transfer. I have an older computer. I think I'll just use my phone. Am I coming in? Wala.
Yeah, Rufy,
Yeah.
can hear
I
you.
can hear you, sir.
Wala.
Okay na
I
ba?
will
Yan.
transfer.
Sabihin
Mahirap
mo
ang
kay,
computer na
takbuhin yung
8 years old. I'll
earphones
have to
ko tsaka
transfer to
yung
my iPhone. Ha?
tabi ng kama.
Oo nga eh.
Di mo kay
Transfer to my
Michelle.
iPhone.
Yeah. Anyway, just continue and yeah. But I'm pretty active in the energy circles.
Oo, kasi nga.
on MAP. Yeah, because of MAP. So I attend all of the Senate hearings of Senator Win. We give our
Dong.
10 cents worth. And then I also get in touch with the others.
Bilis.
The energy circles, no, just to keep up to date.
Right. O, dyan pala si paring Ray. Ray, good morning. Ray, just wanted to introduce you to si Mark and of course you probably dealt with each other
Hello.
long time ago. Mark, si Ray has
Hi,
been on
Ray.
this joined us.
Hi, Ray. Good morning.
Ernie.
I hope you didn't mind, Ed. I also invited Pete Maniego, who's a new addition to MAP.
Sure. No, of
Yeah.
course, it's really open to everybody. Kasi our objective naman was really just to exchange views, di ba? With feedback lang. Feedback. Kasi nga naman, we wanted to make sure that diba? Para lang we get this, get the idea about it. Especially nga, I guess Mark, Rufy, MAP is very influential and Ernie is very influential also because he heads the MAP Energy Group, the committee. Although nag-ano rin lang, nagpa-bounce. Pero Ernie, at one point, ilan taong ka independent power producers head?
Almost 10 years.
Oo nga.
The PIPA president. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we started way back. And then we started getting involved actively in various issues related to IPPs.
Oh, yun. So at least very relevant nga.
Well, we try.
Great question. Itong competitive selection process mo, in latest bids, anong presyong nanalo, Ray?
Let me just.
Pero mga 2 something na lang ba?
The lowest was gas by Excellent Energy. This is part of the San Miguel Global Power Group.
Right.
LCOE 4 pesos 0.1462 per kilowatt hour.
Grabe, no? Oo.
Then the second lowest was coal of Masinloc at 4 pesos 0.2605.
Wow. Grabe nga. Ano yun lang, Mark. Kaya, yun, I guess from Ray's perspective as one of the largest contracting entities with the competitive bidding and the selection process. Kaya ba ngayon ng nuclear ang yung costing ng ganun?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yung fully depreciated nuclear plant sa Amerika, there are about 100 of them. Ang average generating cost is 2.6 US cents per kilowatt hour. So that's about 1 peso and 20 centavos. So of course, that's all, these are all older plants, so they're depreciated. But that's the running cost. So patungan mo yun, siguro even at 2 pesos, you're making money.
Okay.
Yeah. Yung mas bagong planta sa South Korea, ang average cost nila is 4 cents per kilowatt hour, 4 US cents per kilowatt hour. So that's like 2 pesos.
Right.
Because they're also paying financial charges pa, di ba? So matindi ang ang pinakamalaking. Are we starting or are we starting? Yeah.
We can maybe we can start in 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm just
because I'll
waiting
be
also Mark for for PM eh. Wala pa si Cesar.
Oh, okay.
Para at
Because
least
if I start now, I'll be repeating myself.
or maybe what we can wait na lang. Sige. Kasi I want to wait lang for PM before we start siguro, di ba?
Yeah.
I was just checking at least we already have 29 people on the
Yes.
Yeah.
PM Virata is in the po.
PM is in the back.
Morning.
Yes po.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
Cesar.
everyone.
PM. Good
Good morning po.
How are you, sir?
Good morning.
See you, sir.
Nice to see all of you.
Oh, sir.
for joining.
Galing. Siguro what we can do,
Cesar.
since we already have, I guess around 30 people, maybe we can start already if you don't mind.
Sige, I'll just
Okay,
start
Mark.
with a short opening statement.
Yeah.
No?
Sige.
First of all,
Right.
thank
Maybe what
you.
I'll do na lang, I'll do the, if you don't mind, siguro, just so we can start nga, Dang or JC, maybe just mute everybody in the meantime first, and then maybe just keep me, Mark, Rufy, and PM with the sound in the meantime.
Okay.
And then maybe so I'll just do a quick introduction and welcome to everybody. Thank you for attending this very quick and impromptu gathering. It's not even a formal MAP or Sharefield or Phoenix or UP Society of Emancipated Men briefing. It's just friends lang talaga. But anyway, we are honored to have with us, I guess, a couple of key speakers, or just a key speaker really is really, of course, former Congressman Mark Cojuangco. He's a 13-year advocate for the opening of the Bataan nuclear power plant and the founder of Alpaspinas, a pro-nuclear advocacy group. Mark started his advocacy 13 years ago and has been a regular speaker. Of course, he has other businesses, but he just wants to revive nuclear and also improve the lives of the Filipinos. No? And then we also have with us, of course, not to acknowledge the former Prime Minister Cesar Virata, my idol. Of course, at that time he was DOF, so he can also maybe share some thoughts with us later on. Because he knows what happened anyway with the nuclear plant, and then of course we also have with us as a panelist or later on who can share his thoughts. Rufy Virata, balikbayan, a pro nuclear advocate. He's a retired engineer and a lean manufacturing consultant, having set up factories all over. And then also maybe I just like to acknowledge some of the guests here. First of all, my friends from UP Semen, like Glenn Villarman, Bert Mendoza. I also have with me Danny Valdez, Dixon Cos, all the way from the US. He's a consultant in doing other things and many things. Henry Di Maano, Giselle, even Joel Torrecampo is based in New York, Joel, right? He's calling in evening from their time. And also Leo Ringan, who's into IT. He owns several Mac groups, and he also has a private equity investor and others. And then I guess from the business side, maybe I just like to acknowledge also, of course, earlier you saw Ray Espinosa, the president of Meralco and part of the MVP group. We have Ernie Pantanco, who used to be with EDC, but he heads the MAP Energy group, so very influential the MCI Group, President of Wire Rope. I also see, thank you. Great to see you, Peter. Peter Wallace, of course, he's a columnist, but MAP and Phoenix and many others, and he's also an advocate. And then I guess I have other colleagues here to acknowledge. I'll just acknowledge you later on. Giselle also is with expanding it further, from our research side, because we cover research and equity, and also from a capital raising side, because we're very interested to know how feasible this is, because we'd like to help finance you. Should one of you want to take the cudgels and do this, no? So with that, really, we'll now turn the floor, and maybe we will just so that you know, well, at least the agenda for today. We will ask Mark to give a presentation. I think it'll be around 15 minutes only anyway. Then after that, it's really just a Q&A, because this is really more discussion. So we'd love to have your thoughts, Peter, Ray, Jomi, everybody else. Feel free to ask your questions, because this is very informal anyway. Hopefully, if it's something that catches fire, but not fire in the sense na masusunog yung planta, but fire that's exciting for us, then at least we can always bring it up in our various organizations and have Mark guest further on. Maybe before I pass to Mark, if you don't mind, PM, Cesar, maybe if you don't mind, maybe we can ask a few words from you before we pass it to Mark, please. Because you know the history and you are the father. Maybe you can just make sure that the PM has his on.
Tito Cesar, I think you have to unmute.
Okay now?
Yes,
Yes.
you're fine.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And I'm glad that we have this gathering about the nuclear power plant. Well, you see, the history of this is that when and then in addition to that, we were also concerned about our problems in Mindanao. And I think some of you must have experienced the cutting our supply by 25%, resulting in rationing. So in order to lessen our dependence on oil, we thought we should move to coal, because that is most plentiful in terms of energy source. And there are various sources of coal and not dependent on the Middle East. In the meantime that we have the plants operating based on oil, well, we had to suffer because they were increasing the price initially from around $1.70 to $2 per barrel. Immediately it became 7, 9, 11, 14, and it reached up to around 36 and dollars per barrel. So fortunately, we had two initiatives. One was the volcanology of Dr. Alcaraz, and he tried Tiwi, so we succeeded with an outlay of around 70,000 pesos. And another initiative we had was how to source oil and gas in the Philippines. So we had an investment of 50,000 to get a consultant, Walter Levy, that change our system of awarding concessions for oil and gas exploration. We adopted the service contract idea, which is very similar to that of Indonesia, with reference to the concession with Caltex. So we also thought of having a nuclear power plant because, as you know, coal has also other bad effects to the atmosphere. Between Canada, their heavy water system, which was adopted by India, I think, and the US between GE and Westinghouse. And we also consider the French because France was heavily dependent on about 75%, I think, of their electric energy source is from nuclear. And in fact, they had also offers to build a floating nuclear power plant. So with the evaluation of the technology, we found that the Westinghouse was a better one than General Electric because it is high pressure steam. The steam is separate from the nuclear elements so that in case there is any leak in the high pressure system, there is no contamination. And I have checked this with the Taiwan, Taipei 1 and 2. And because they were operating the GE system. And definitely the general manager said that you have a better system. And we saw to it that the elevation of the BNPP is quite high. So as far as tidal waves are concerned, it could not be reached by it cannot be reached. And secondly, we also provided protection from volcanic eruption. And you can see that it withstood the eruption of Pinatubo. The other thing that I would like to mention also is that when the steel spears are being welded, our women welders were praised so much by the contractor because this was a turnkey basis. We had no experience in constructing a nuclear power plant, so it was a turnkey basis by Westinghouse. And imagine they have to weld steel spears, sections of steel spears, which is what, about 6 inches thick or maybe more. So you have to go on deep welding, and out of the say, and it was X-rayed, only 3 inches were defective. That is why they had a very heavy praise for the ability of our women welders. We also sent 60 engineers and other scientists to Canada for training for 3 years. And they were considered to be very well qualified, better in as compared with the operators in Canada, as they said. And we were always subject to inspection by the International Atomic Energy Commission. We had our ambassador in Vienna, both for UNIDO and the International Atomic Energy, so that we have the regular inspection on the electricals, the plumbing, the pumping systems, the cooling systems, and so on. So it was scheduled to be operated in 1986. And the president in 1985 told me that I should be in charge in having this operated because there are many aspects to be covered in addition because you have the community, you have the international, you have the US, and the technical side. So I was in charge, and but we were ousted by the events, and when things settled, I was approached by the former foreign minister of Japan, or maybe, and he was asking me, what can I offer? He visited me in my house in Pilam Life, and what can I offer President Aquino? I told him, the best thing that you can offer is to operate the Bataan nuclear power plant because we need energy, and that is scheduled to be online. And otherwise, there will be a shortage. The next day, he came back to my house in Pilam and he said, Cesar, rejected. And since I was also the Minister of Finance, I had to arrange for the financing of the nuclear power plant. $800 million came from US Exim Bank because it is a US made equipment. And since they do not finance interest during construction, I had to raise 300 million from the banking institutions, largely in the United States also. So we were able to do that. And so the initial cost turnkey basis was 1,100,000,000. We are depending on the executive order and law of the United States that no payments should be made by any company in the United States to a buyer of such equipment. And Secretary Reagan assured me, yes, we will surely watch this and we will apply the law. So things went on and unfortunately there was this 3-mile incident in the United States. So there was a delay. There was also investigation here. So whatever changes have to be made, slight changes to be made, we had to additionally finance it. And those sections that were finished and supposed to be shipped already to the Philippines were kept in the United States because there was no permission to have it shipped yet. So we had to get warehousing, insurance, and the additional cost during that investigation was probably around 300 million. So that was the first one. And but anyway, in 1986, it was ready to be operated, but not operated until now. And because of the various charges, I have been questioned so many different times by US lawyers hired by the Philippine government on the charges that there was corruption. Well, I was telling them that we were assured by the US Secretary of the Treasury about the application of US law. And anyway, the cost for litigation, and then the Russian nuclear debacle there. Although that kind of a nuclear power plant can never be licensed, that is the initial and very old technology. So actually, there is nothing that should involve the Bataan nuclear power plant as far as that was concerned. So that is as and subsequent to the Japanese attempt to operate it, at one time, one of the Korean ambassadors was sent by their prime minister to visit me about the nuclear power plant because we had the same power plant that the one constructed in the Philippines was also constructed in Korea by KEPCO. Same size, Westinghouse, and now I think it has been operated for about 33 or 34 years. And he told me, well, what I was telling him, why don't you offer to operate the Bataan nuclear power plant? Well, again, I think in deference to the wishes of former President Aquino, the successors did not want to touch the operation of the nuclear power plant. There were so many systems that there were systems that were depending on the operation of the nuclear power plant. For example, the pump up irrigation from Laguna de Bay to Cavite, because Cavite lacks fresh water, and we thought that we could pump at night with very cheap electricity. The same is true for the Caliraya Laguna Bay system. And we also thought that we could use at night the energy coming from the nuclear power plant because it's so cheap to irrigate Isabela and Cagayan by having floating pumps along the Cagayan River in order to irrigate and be able to plant during the summer. So there were many things like that that did not happen because the cost of electricity was so high. I think I have talked too much, and maybe I will try to help out just in convincing people that we are wasting an asset that has been shown to be dependable and also good for the environment, because we need sources of energy that will not have a negative effect on the environment. So I think I'll end at this stage. Thank you so much for organizing this webinar on the Bataan nuclear power plant. And I really depend a great deal on Mark because he is really so patient, so energetic, and full of recent information about nuclear energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar.
Thank you.
Galing,
Thank you,
galing. So
Cesar.
before we pass it to Mark, maybe we just like to acknowledge other late people who are able to join. Manny Eligade, the Kia Ayala Group, Romy Neri, former NEDA and SSS head, and then Eric Cruz, the birthday boy and formerly country manager of Deutsche Bank and now is security. So maybe Mark, we pass the floor to you and please
Yes.
control us with the updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Prime Minister Virata. That was very informative. I was just going to give a 5-minute opening remarks, and then I would have requested that we start a discussion, an open discussion, and I would answer each topic as it came up. But I think I will instead make some comments on what the Prime Minister has said. BNPP was finished its hot functional testing in May of 1984. That is a major milestone in nuclear build. After the hot functional testing, usually the nuclear plant already loads nuclear fuel. In fact, in BNPP, the nuclear fuel was already on hand at the site. In 1985, in March, BNPP passed the OSAR-2 mission of the IAEA, which certified it as ready for core loading. And in fact, then Minister of Energy, Velasco, in his memoirs, if you read his book, was already egging the plant. But politics prevailed, and at that time, President Marcos was playing politics with then Ambassador Stephen Bosworth, who wanted a delay in the core loading of the plant because he was raising concerns about there not being a hospital in Bataan and other flimsy delaying reasoning. So it did not run. Then the rest is history. I'd like to make comment on the Prime Minister's comments about the earthquake in Fukushima, Japan. Firstly, he said also that BNPP went through the eruptions of Pinatubo. It also went through a very major earthquake in 1992. If you recall, so much damage in Central Luzon, nothing to BNPP. The design at Daiichi Fukushima had a seismic basis of 0.18 G. Theoretically not enough to withstand an intensity 9 earthquake. But Daiichi flew through that with flying colors. It shut down automatically, exactly like it was supposed to. What did Daiichi in was the 15-meter tsunami, which arrived 30 minutes later. So it was on the way to a controlled shutdown, automatic. It worked perfectly. But then, because of its only 6 meters above sea level location, and having its emergency generators in a basement, after the tsunami hit, it could not restart its emergency diesel generators anymore because it was like a swimming pool. BNPP is 19 meters above sea level, the road in front of BNPP, and its emergency diesel generators are not in a basement. So if the tsunami in Japan had hit Morong, our BNPP would not have even gotten wet. Our BNPP is built to a Z compared to Daiichi's 0.18 G. And before, when I would talk about BNPP, I could not say with a straight face to all of you that if a 9 earthquake had hit Morong, nothing would happen to our BNPP because I had no basis. But but now, because of what happened in the Daiichi in Fukushima, I can say that BNPP can withstand a 9 earthquake and beyond, because I know that the 0.18G design basis of Daiichi passed an above 9 earthquake. I have the basis to say it now. So we can say that had BNPP been at Daiichi instead of the plants that they had there would be no incident to speak about. The move to nuclear really began in 1958 with the Philippine Science Act. It's a Republic Act. What is? Hang on. Republic Act 2067, which formed the PAEC in section 16 of this law. PAEC was formed, no, and that law manifested the Philippines' desire to have nuclear power sometime in the future, and so all the agencies were set up, the study groups were set up, site selection was undertaken from 1958 onward. It did not happen during the Marcos time. It happened way prior to the Marcos time. So it reached 1973, and there was this big oil crisis, sabi nga ni PM. And so all the sites were already evaluated. Nuclear was evaluated. The choices were clear. We had two choices. Either buy a BWR, a boiling water reactor, or a PWR, a pressurized water reactor. What the Daiichi plants were BWRs, GE BWRs. That would have been the same plant we would have gotten had we gone General Electric. Instead, we went Westinghouse, which was PWRs, which account for 70 to 80% of all the nuclear plants in the world today. There are 450 nuclear plants in the world today. You'll be surprised that over the last 10 years, 50 new ones have come online. There are still 50 under construction. And in the last 2 years, there have been 12 new starts for nuclear plants in the world. So the new build is accelerating. No? The big players are Korea, China, and Russia. Korea exported 4 APR 1400s to the United Arab Emirates, an oil exporting country. Those plants, thousands of Filipino workers and hundreds of Filipino engineers helped build those plants. The first one came online just last year. So it will account for 25% of the United. They're built for 1,400 megawatts each. So total of the 4 is like almost 10 BNPPs. And it came online last year. It will account for 25% of the United Arab Emirates electric power production. So the Prime Minister also mentioned the cost of BNPP. No, I was defending the budget of the Department of Finance in the last 3 years that I was in Congress, 2007 to 2010, and I was informed that the total amount that we paid was $2.12 billion US, 699 million of which was interest payment. So we paid in principal 1.421 billion US dollars. The identical plant to BNPP in Korea, the Kori 2 nuclear plant, they only spent 1.05 billion US dollars. But there are differences. No? When they built Cory 2, Cory 1 was already in place. So the site was already developed. They already had the road from Cory site to Busan City. They already had the power line from the Cory site to Busan City. They already had a nuclear village, which is necessary, in place. South Korea paid for Cory 2 after 6 years of operations. And the running nuclear plant paid for all the interest payments. After that, the Koreans said, this is good. We're saving a lot of foreign exchange. Let's build more nuclear plants. And so the next two plants they built, Cory 3 and Cory 4, was 50% Korean content. And after that, they said, wow, this is really good. Let's build a standard Korean nuclear plant, which was the OPR 1000. They built, what, like 10 of those, 10 or more of those. And before graduating to their 100% Korean-built APR 1400, what they exported to the United Arab Emirates, now Korea has 29 nuclear plants. They have half our population. And Cory 2 and BNPP came at the same time. In fact, when they were building Cory 2, the steam generator that they ordered from the United States fell into the ocean while unloading at the dock beside the Cory 2 site. And the Korean government requested the Philippine government that if they could take our steam generator, since we didn't need it yet. And our government acceded to that request, and our steam generator was connected at Cory 2, and it was their first steam generator there, and ours was just replaced by a new one, which the Koreans paid for. So Chernobyl, no? Chernobyl, the Prime Minister mentioned Chernobyl. Chernobyl had no containment. That's something which is forbidden in all Western nuclear power plants. You cannot build a nuclear plant without containment. Dan, can you show we have a video about containment. Maybe after my talk, we'll show that short video that I made about containment. Yes, the Philippines set up the pumped hydroelectric storage for using water from Laguna de Bay to be pumped up to Caliraya during off-peak hours and being run down during peak hours to add to the utility of the BNPP. So I'm here today as the lead convener of Alpas Pinas. And I would like to tell you about the urgency why nuclear, not only BNPP. BNPP is just the quickest door to open for us to get into nuclear. Is both urgent and compelling. We are signing, our government is approving licenses for coal and gas plants to beyond 2030. And every time we build a coal or gas plants, it commits us to importation of coal and gas for the next 40 years. Otherwise, this investment will become stranded investments. Okay? It's only nuclear that can give us the potential for half-priced electricity. I think that half-priced electricity would have a major impact on our economic performance. I would ask you to do a thought experiment. If over the last 33 years, if we had run BNPP, would it be plausible to assume that our GDP increased by 1% for each of those 33 years because electricity was half priced and reliable? I think that our expensive electricity and unreliable electricity has driven away potential investors into our country. We have been avoided as an investment destination during those early years of brownouts and high electricity prices. If you think that's plausible, a 1% incremental increase in our GDP over the last 33 years, then our economy should be at least 33% bigger today than what it is. The next question will be, is it only 1%? Could half price have electricity have made it 2, 3, 4% more? I think we saw our neighbors have double-digit growth rates when we were stagnating, no? So I leave that to you to decide what's the impact of half-priced electricity, especially that long ago. The next point is foreign exchange savings. Every gigawatt of installed nuclear capacity can make us avoid between $500 to $700 million a year in coal and gas importation for the 80-year life of the nuclear power plant. So Japan, when it's had this incident in Fukushima, shut down all its nuclear power plants. Its import for oil and gas, coal and gas, its incremental import was $30 billion a year. No, that's why Japan is fighting so hard to reopen its nuclear power plants. And in the new energy plan, they will be back to 22% by 2030. They were originally 30% before the Fukushima incident. And they want to be 50% by 2050 so that they can achieve their net zero goals. On the environment, nuclear is the cleanest of all the, well, it is at a par with wind and solar when you consider just the net energy out, no? But when you consider capacity factor and you consider that you need gas to back up wind and solar so that you will have 24/7 power, then nuclear leaps ahead. No, that's not the one, Tang. It's the one with the no. Yes, that one and the other one also. Nuclear leaps ahead, no? It really, there's one more chart, Dang. This second, the other chart. Yes, so it's at a par when you don't consider capacity factor, but when you use gas to back up both winds, all the three, wind, solar, and nuclear, you'll see that nuclear leaps ahead in terms of emissions, no? 50 grams CO2 per kilowatt hour for nuclear, wind onshore at 298 grams per kilowatt hour, and solar PV at 422 grams per kilowatt hour. Why? Because the capacity factor of solar at 20%, you have gas backing it up 80% of the time. And wind at 40% capacity factor, you have gas backing it up 60% of the time. So if we want to leave coal and gas behind, it's impossible without nuclear. Safety, there's nothing safer than nuclear. The old chart lang, please. This is the WHO numbers on safety, right? How lethal is your kilowatt hour? 161 deaths from coal, pollution, air pollution, etc., etc. The massive transport of coal And then you have oil, natural gas at only 4. But look at nuclear, no? This includes Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and Fukushima. So nuclear has already saved over 2 million lives because of the coal that it has avoided. So if you look at it that way, we can discuss this later with your questions. So maybe I'll leave it there first, or else I'll be talking and talking here without knowing what your real concerns are. And then we can talk about everything from nuclear waste to financing, and maybe before I close, one more just insight. What makes nuclear power magical? It's the energy density. The energy density of nuclear means that, Dan, can I have the energy density? No, energy density. Yeah, energy density lang. The cartoon. Yeah, anyway, the energy density is so high that you need so little of nuclear fuel to power your plant. I'll give you an example. If you were to have a 620 megawatt coal plant, the size of BNPP, you would need 51 Panamax size coal ships every 18 months, right? But if you were to run BNPP, you would only need a jeepney full of nuclear fuel, and that's what it looks like on the left side. You would only need a jeepney full of that once every 18 months, a single refueling every 18 months. So, and also, the energy density and the process of fission itself um, allows you to have so little waste. Can you move back down to the previous picture? The no, no, the jeepney. Yeah, so the jeepney down, the jeepney. The one with the, yeah, okay. So in fission, you don't get a chemical reaction. In combustion, when you burn carbon atomic weight of 12, you attach an oxygen molecule to it, so it becomes CO2. That's atomic weight of 16 times 2, that's 32 plus 12, that's 44. So you started with 12, you end up with 44. So there's 3 times more waste produced than the fuel you used, right? In the case of fission, there's no chemical reaction. So you start out with 20 tons, and 18 months later, you're still with 20 tons. It's not dirty water, it's not smoke. That on the left side, you see the fuel assemblies. 4.5 years later, it's still fuel assemblies coming out, which you call now high-level nuclear waste. But then it's not also waste at all, because it has a 20 times reuse potential in generation for reactors. So it is a great national resource and wealth. And we should change the paradigm, the way we look at spent nuclear fuel and the repositories. These are generational energy banks. If we look at it that way, it's a great wealth, not a liability. So with that, I'd like to end my talk and then open it for this. Open up the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
Mark, maybe we can. Rufy, do you have anything to add before we ask? I read some of the questions.
Yes, no, well, what I would like to ask is I'm relatively new at this, right? Having been a balikbayan, but what impressed me the most right, is the opportunity we are losing. Right? Mark and I, we actually went to BNPP a few months ago. No, it brought back memories for myself. I had set up factories all over the world. And one of my frustration was to set up one in the Philippines. No? But at that time, the Philippines had electrical problems. Right? There was a shortage. Electricity was very expensive if you even had it. No? And so, shipping was, very expensive. So we ended up setting 3 factories in China, India, and in some other places. But it was always my hope, since I had set up factories all over the world, to do one in the Philippines. And then I got to know Mark, and for us, right, this is more of a legacy issue. I just became a grandfather, right? And the BNPP, once it's refurbished, yung apo ko, may apo na, pwedeng tumakbo pa yun. No? So with this group, if by working together we can find a way, no, to get BNPP going, right? And as Mark had shared, this is only opening the door to nuclear. It does not stop there, right? But it is for our country, for it to be developed for our children and children's children, right? So
Yeah, if I may comment on that, no, what Rufy said is very true. But many of you here might feel that it's very implausible to open BMPP, being that it's already 33 years old, right? The NRC, the US NRC, has come up with recent rulings. There are a lot older plants than BNPP in America. Actually, BNPP is newer than 70% of all the operating nuclear plants in America because it was built at the tail end of the first nuclear era. So here's some, these are 2 nuclear plants each, which are 51 years running already, which have been given, they already have licenses to 60 years. They have now been given operating license extensions by the US NRC to go from 60 years to 80 years. And there's now studies ongoing to bring them to past 100 years because there's really nothing that cannot be replaced in a nuclear power plant except the reactor pressure vessel. The thing is that it takes 80 years for the metal in the reactor pressure vessel to become brittle, to be of concern, brittle enough to be of concern through the action of neutron bombardment or irradiation. Our BNPP has not seen a single neutron, so it's brand new. What's the precedent in the United States? Watch Bar 2, a nuclear power plant in Tennessee, was initiated 6 years prior to our BNPP. Natenga yan at 60% complete, hindi yan tinapos. In 2007 or 2009, they decided to complete this plant and it was commissioned in 2016. It is America's newest nuclear plant. It was given a 40-year operating license by the US NRC and is entitled to 2 20-year extensions under current regulations. It might be entitled to even more once they approve nuclear plants going to 100 years. So what I'm saying is, don't think that the 1.15 billion dollars that KEPCO is asking us that they need to commission BNPP actually is such a bargain because that's about the price you need to pay for a greenfields nuclear power plant, a greenfields coal plant na kapalit, no? So you're paying 1 billion, 1.15 billion dollars, but you're getting a nuclear plant instead, and it's going to save you what 300 to 400 million US dollars a year in avoided coal importation. I think it's a big deal, but maybe there are other experts here who would argue otherwise. No, so yun po ang akin. Ang laki po ng diferensya ng nuclear versus fossil fuel power plants. So I leave it there. Then may questions na ba?
Yes, may several questions na. Maybe what we'll do, JC, I have a list of questions and it's actually in the chat.
Yes,
But
sir.
maybe we can ask, the first question was from Edith Dichao, and then we have a comment, or we wanted the reaction from Mr. From Ray Espinosa, and then I guess the third one we wanted Romineri. Romineri wanted to ask a question. Maybe
Yes, sir.
Edith, can you repeat your question, please? Maybe just turn on the mic for Edith, and then later Mr. Ray, and then and then kay Mr. Mary, please. JC.
Yes, po.
Thank you.
Edith.
Edith, go
Hey.
ahead. Edith, your question anyway and Joselle's are the same. So at least I hope Joselle's questions will be answered when you ask the question. Go ahead.
Okay, I won't open my video, but anyway, my question was, Mr. Cojuangco, at first you were comparing our BNPP to that of the nuclear plant in Japan.
Yes.
I was just wondering how come our technical spec is better than that of Japan when they are known to be really earthquake prone. They have earthquakes every so often. And
Yes.
is it really true that our technical spec for BNPP is better than that of Japan? And then I posted another question like, BNPP has been stagnant for a long time, as we all know. The parts, I don't know the technical parts of a nuclear power plant. My concern is the parts may have not or have deteriorated and nobody was looking into it. How can we be sure that the risk will be minimized? Because I think everybody still have that stigma of the Chernobyl, which you have explained on why it spilled or whatever. And of course, I'm against the.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just putting all the questions, but I will.
Yeah, marami yun eh.
And of
Kailangan
course,
ko
I'm
ilista.
against using up all our fossil fuels. And nuclear is feasible, but I think I am asking who will operate it, and I hope it will be operated well.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, so operated well, no? Firstly, let me state off the bat that in my opinion, we don't want scientists operating our nuclear power plant. In as much as we don't want scientists flying our commercial airlines, for the simple reason that we don't want any experiments to be done in running our nuclear plant. What we would want are certified, proficient nuclear operators, just as we have certified, proficient pilots to fly our airlines. What were the other questions? Ang daming sunod-sunod eh. What were the other questions there? Yeah, what was the other one?
Sir, BNPP and
our
Fukushima.
the BNPP's technical setup.
Okay, yes.
Is it really better?
Because ganito, no, yung una, in the first salvo of nuclear plant, not proliferation, adoption in the world, the only standard was the 0.18 G standard that was developed in America. They thought that at that time, that was enough to meet any possible earthquake scenario. But then they started selling nuclear plants in the Ring of Fire, namely Japan, right? That started California also. So there they came face to face with the fact that no, we have to build it stronger in these places because there's an increased frequency and intensity of earthquake. That's why they went from a 0.18 G standard to a 0.4 G standard. Eh yung nabenta sa Fukushima was the prior standard. Kaya since we only ordered our plant in the late 70s, Fukushima was already running by then. We got to adopt the latest standard, which was intended for the Ring of Fire. So yun, alam ko. Ngayon, BWRs and PWRs, the difference is another circuit of cooling. So in a BWR, the reactor itself is the boiler. The steam that goes to the turbine is directly from the reactor. So it's slightly radioactive, no? But it decays in minutes. So it's really not dangerous to the public. In the case of a PWR, there's an intermediate circuit. So you have the primary circuit, which is under such high pressure that the water is not allowed to boil. Its only purpose is to transfer heat into the secondary circuit, which boils, which drives the turbine. And so that is absolutely not radioactive. Even the steam going to the balance of plant, which is outside the nuclear island. So PWRs are more forgiving in their basic design than BWRs are. It's not to say BWRs are dangerous, because now with the advent of the ABWR, the ESBWR, and the BWRX, this is all of General Electric. They've practically made a BWR that's already got all the attributes of a PWR and still retains the 3 to 4% efficiency advantage of going direct steam from the reactor to the turbine. So yes, we have, in that era of nuclear plant, I can say that BNPP is a better nuclear plant than all those plants that were installed at Fukushima Daiichi, for the simple reason that BNPP is a much later concept and later design. What was the other question? Yes.
If I may help, Mark, no, Edith, just a quick answer to your question. Whenever all nuclear power plants all over the world have to fall under one standard, we have to pass the IAEA, no, which means it's an international standard to make sure all nuclear power plants are safe. Now, in relation to that, what Mark finished stated a while ago, no? The Philippine, ang mga piloto ng Filipino, no, are among the best in the world because they have to meet that international standard. No? So we should have no doubt at all that when BNPP starts to operate, it will operate up to the latest standards. It will meet all safety standards.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then just,
how will we be assured that? Yeah. How will we be assured that the equipment is good, no? In BNPP, it has to undergo a commissioning process which takes 4 to 5 years, and that's where the Koreans come in, because they're operating exactly the same plant. So every single part of BNPP will be gone through to determine if it's according to the original design documents or superseding design documents because of lessons learned since 1986 until today. So it will be made up to date. And then the people will be trained. That's part of the commissioning process. And so only when we pass another OSAR 2 inspection from the IAEA and another hot functional testing, I will explain hot functional testing a little later, and then power ascension, first criticality, power ascension, and only then will BNPP be a commissioned nuclear plant. And that's the only time that its clock starts ticking. No? So I don't know if I answered your question. Let me tell you about hot functional testing. BNPP actually already ran, but not with nuclear fuel. If you run, the pumps of BNPP are megawatts in size, no? So if you run the pumps, the recirculation pumps of reactor coolant pumps of BNPP, the water in the primary circuit will get hot because of the pumping action. So over a few hours or days, it will reach a temperature where it's hot enough to generate steam in the secondary circuit and run the turbine. So they did that, 5 megawatts, run for a few minutes, stop, accumulate steam, run again for months to test all the componentry of BNPP. So I can say that it already ran, not commercially, but it proved itself. So when they say it's a white elephant, I think it's a white elephant only because we didn't decide to run it, but it already proved itself in its hot functional testing. Any other?
Siguro,
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks, Mark.
Siguro-
Mark, maybe we can entertain the other questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
please.
Maybe we can ask Ray Espinosa to give his reaction because I just listing down the in sequence. Kasi. Ray, could you share your reactions, please?
Yeah, sorry, my video was a problem, but there it is.
Thank you, Ray. Clear.
Thank you for the information and update on your views about nuclear power. I do share, maybe as not as passionately as you do, but I do share the view that nuclear has a place in the Philippines, especially if we do want to displace all fossil fuel eventually, not just coal, but even natural gas, which is still fossil based.
Right.
And I am a big supporter of renewables as well, except that renewables cannot today provide for the base load capacity of requirements of the Philippines. So nuclear obviously has that capabilities, but in the end, I guess for a distribution utility, it's not so much our concern, but rather because we do purchase power on a competitive selection process basis, is what would be the cost of that power. I don't know a lot about the BNPP and what the cost, it will entail to bring it up to specs, up to par to the new standard today, post Fukushima. But what I do know is that after Fukushima, a lot of improvements have been made in the designs of all nuclear power plants of the same sort of technology. So that's one. So the cost element becomes a question, I suppose, for the Philippines. The second really is when we talk about nuclear, perhaps one view is not to be wedded to one particular technology, but to be open to the newer technologies that are coming out, such as the Natrium nuclear power plant that is being developed by TerraPower and GE Hitachi Nuclear Energy, which is supposed to be a more cost-effective nuclear power plant, given that it is using liquid sodium together with thermal storage as to extend basically the megawatt electricity output of the plant by at least 4 to 5 hours. So there's that. There are newer technologies coming out, not to mention obviously the small modular reactors, which are also being explored even by the US. So I guess we need to understand the value of reviving BNPP at this stage versus just opening up the country to a policy that will allow nuclear power to be brought into the Philippines using the best available and most cost-effective technology. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, you mentioned Natrium reactors of Bill Gates. No, this is what you call a Generation 4 reactor, a fast reactor, meaning the neutrons are not moderated, they're fast. Higher speed neutrons. So in traditional moderated fission, you need to slow down the neutrons, and you use water or graphite to do that, so that they are more reactive, no? And the only fissionable isotope there is U-235, which makes up only 0.7% of uranium, natural uranium. So it's a very rare, expensive product or commodity. When you use fast reactors, you can fission even the U-238, which makes up 99.3% of all uranium. So all of a sudden, all of this stuff is usable, not just the 0.7% U-235. What else is usable? All the spent, what we call now spent nuclear fuel, becomes potential fuel. So if we run BNPP today, we are generating a stockpile of fuel for when generation 4 reactors come around. So it is creating a great national wealth by running a light water reactor like BNPP, because the reuse potential is 20 times. Example, for the last 33 years, if we had run BNPP, we would have 33 times 20, which is what? 660 years worth of fuel for a generation 4 620 megawatt reactor. Now that's generating wealth from waste. And that's the whole ethos of being an environmentalist, is it not? I mean, this is already pre-mined, already there, disposal of which is already prepaid through a 0.1 US cent per kilowatt hour contribution to a trust fund for waste disposal, and the same amount again for plant decommissioning at the end of 8 years. So all of the costs, the waste cost, the decommissioning cost, is already prepaid. Another point you mentioned, the SMRs. The SMRs that will be available immediately are LWRs. In other words, they are still DWRs and PWRs. There are only two games in town at the moment, no? There's NuScale in Oregon, and there's General Electric Hitachi with their BWRX 300. These are both under US NRC review for design certification. Actually, NuScale already got their design certification. So they're now preparing their supply chain. Operating plants by 2028, right? So if you want to order one, you order it today. Same with GEH, they're expecting a running plant by 2028. $2,250 per kilowatt overnight cost. This competes with gas and coal already, right? They are saying that they will have a 300 megawatt installation for less than $1 billion. Okay. Post Fukushima, in 2010, before the incident at Fukushima, KEPCO came to the Philippines, stayed at the plant with about 30 engineers for like 60 days, and said, it will cost us $1 billion to commission this plant. They came back in 2016 under the invitation of the Duterte administration. And they said, including post-Fukushima modifications or adjustments, $1.15 billion. So it increased by $150 million. It's still a bargain. It's a fantastic bargain.
How many megawatts would that be?
620. 600. BNPP is 620 megawatts. The same reactor in Korea, the Cory 2 nuclear plant generates 650 megawatts, 30 megawatts more, because the cooling water is colder. right? So your condensing water is colder. It gives you a free 30 megawatts more.
The 1.2 billion of KEPCO includes the fuel already, Congressman.
1.15. No, the fuel is cheap. No, we bought our first. We bought our first load of. By the way, let me explain the fuel a little bit. You replace a third of the fuel every 1.5 years in a PWR and every 2 years in a BWR. Okay. So the fuel stays inside the reactor for 4.5 years. Okay. The core of BNPP was at that time $20 million, right? We sold, the government under the Ramos administration sold it for $20 million to Siemens. Okay. Now the prices have gone a little bit higher, but it's still like $20 million for an 18-month refuel. So that's $20 million versus what? $350 to $400 million of coal for 18 months. I don't know. You would know the numbers better than I. So the savings is huge. In nuclear, you spend more for knowledge-based workers than for fuel. So in nuclear, you spend for the expertise, the technology, versus spending for fossil fuel-based sources.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Maybe we can go to the next question. JC, please. I think we want, who is the next one ba? Go ahead, JC. Who did you unmute?
Romulo Neri po.
Yes, Mr.
Sir?
Neri, Romy.
Sir? Yes, pa-mute na lang po, sir.
Okay.
Sorry po. Pa-mute na lang po ulit. Ayun. Thank you po. Yes, sir.
Go
Okay,
ahead, Romy.
yeah, I agree that nuclear is the way to go. Solar power is not right for us because it will eat into our farmlands, no? And we don't have enough areas for solar. Unlike the Mexico or the U.S. Desert states, just plenty of these desert areas ideal for solar. So I'd like to go back though to what Ray already mentioned, the nuclear technology of Bill Gates. It's supposed to be high fuel efficiency using spent nuclear fuel, and it uses liquid sodium as the coolant, which is much less dangerous than water cooling, which can explode.
No. Excuse me. I don't agree with that. Completely wrong.
Okay. Anyway, I just want to put up the issues here. I just got this from the internet. And of course, the advantage is supposed to be it's cheaper than the usual nuclear power plant. $1 billion for about 500 megawatts, although it's still in the development stage. Also, have we explored what China and India are developing using thorium as nuclear fuel? I'll end with that. Thank you.
Yes. Liquid sodium is not safer per se. Actually, it's highly reactive with it bursts into flame when exposed to the air or to water. But the big thing about liquid sodium is that it attains its temperature without requiring any pressure. In other words, it attains operating temperature at 1 atmosphere, ambient pressure. So there's no pressure driving lots of liquid to escape from the wherever it is, the reactor pressure vessel. But there are other generation 4 technologies. I'm not saying that liquid sodium is dangerous either. No, I'm just saying that to say that it's safer than light water reactors, it's not quite accurate. That's all I'm saying. the problem with Generation 4 reactors, we're looking at, in my opinion, 20 years before deployment from now. So in other words, first, they will be tested, they will be proven before the US NRC becomes comfortable enough, or the public becomes comfortable enough with them to allow massive deployment. But we have light water reactors today that are deployable today. Why are we going to wait for these Generation 4 reactors when we can deploy today, and the spent fuel we will have is free fuel, already paid for spent fuel, will be free fuel for tomorrow's Generation 4 reactors. That's an issue for our children and grandchildren, I think. No, we cannot solve all the problems of the future today. I mean, but we are providing them with a legacy of free fuel for them to use when the time comes that Generation 4 is deployable. So yun po ang akin ngayon. There are other things aside from liquid sodium reactors. There's molten salt reactors, molten chloride salt fast reactors. Molten salt is not reactive. So even if it's exposed to the air or water, there's no bad reaction. You know? So these are things being developed, matagal pa po yan. Thorium, 4 times more abundant than uranium is. Why do we need to go to thorium when uranium is so cheap today? Even if the uranium price doubled tomorrow, the price of fuel assemblies will only increase by 20%. So you can have several doublings of the price of uranium without affecting the economic viability of current light water reactors. Another thing, there is such a thing as ocean-sourced uranium. The ocean contains 4.5 billion tons of uranium naturally. Pacific Northwest National Laboratories and Japan and other countries have researched this. A certain kind of fiber, plastic fiber with amidoxine in it, attracts selectively uranyl ions in the seawater, and it's just like seaweed culture. You just leave it in the water. Every few months you harvest your uranium, and then you. So in other words, what I'm saying, we have uranium. You know, we don't have it in the. Well, firstly, there's uranium in all soil. 2 parts per million average concentration of uranium even in your garden soil, right? But it's not commercially, it's too expensive. It's too scarce to mine commercially. But since you don't have collection in the ocean, you just have to let it sit there for a while. Let the natural current make the ocean water flow past these fibers. These are already economically viable, but since uranium is so cheap, we're not going to use. This is for reserve, right? This is for the future. So, you know, with this, I can say that uranium is renewable, because as you take the uranium away from the seawater, it is replenished by the solubility of uranyl from the ocean bottom and from runoff from continents. So, you know, this is another thing that we need to look at. There's a lot of uranium in the world.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. I agree that it's really, the way for us to go. And I think it will really bring the power cost down. I think that was the secret of Korea's industrialization. Yeah. Cheap power from uranium, from nuclear power. Thank you.
If I may add to what Mark said, right? Just a quick item. The country's security, because of the density of uranium, of nuclear, we would not need as many shipments, right? For oil and for coal.
We can get rid of the entire uh, the fossil fuel shipping industry does not need to exist. No, we can transport fuel good for 4.5 years on a single 737 flight from Japan to the Philippines or from the US to the Philippines. If there's trouble in the West Philippine Sea and the ships can't pass, we will immediately have brownouts,
So within a week,
outages, right? So
So within a
even
week.
in terms of national security, nuclear is a major thing for us.
Yeah. Mark, question lang. Time check lang. It's 10:33, but I still have 5 people
Yes,
nakapila
please.
to ask the questions. You have time
Okay
pa?
lang. Okay lang. Walang problema.
Sige.
Walang
Maybe at
problema.
least we'll ask this 5. Then after that, siguro for the participants, because ang galing, it's so exciting. Kaya lang baka mag-abutin tayo ng 11, and then we'll see na lang then if we have to cut it off by then. But sige, maybe Mark, maybe we can ask Leo Ringingen. Leo is also part of an investor group. Leo, please go ahead.
Hi, we're talking about
Yes.
Bataan nuclear power. What a way to
Yes.
celebrate Bataan Day. Happy Bataan Day.
Oh, happy Bataan Day. I didn't know that.
Coincidental yata.
Yeah.
Oo nga, no?
I didn't know that.
Anyway, my question is this. Now, I know that the Bataan nuclear power plant is the most feasible, most technical feasible, and the faster way to go nuclear power. But the problem is there's so much emotional, political, and
Yes.
even marketing
Agree.
baggage associated with it.
Yes.
So my
yes.
question is this: now, is it faster and more feasible to just to zero base everything, look for another site, and build
Yes.
from there? No.
Actually,
So my second question would be: are there several locations in the Philippines that we can build nuclear power plants?
yes. Okay, I'll answer your second question first. There are tens of locations in the Philippines because we're an island nation. The cheapest nuclear plants are those that don't require cooling towers, that have direct access to ocean water for cooling. So you eliminate the investment in the cooling tower, which is major. So yes, anywhere along the coastline that gives you enough elevation to make you safe from any possible tsunami is a possible site. And I went to Switzerland, and it was surprising that locals love their nuclear power plants. There's this nuclear power plant that I visited. Actually, I have a video of swimming in the exhaust water, the cooling water of this nuclear in the river of this nuclear plant. No, a pair of nuclear plants that are 10 years older than our BNPP. Also Westinghouse, two loop, but half the size each. It's surrounded by 6,000 households. The nuclear plant's cooling water goes under the roads, is piped under the roads, and enters each house and provides free heating to the homes during winter time, right? So that's how confident they are. The waste repository of the high-level nuclear waste for the 7 reactors in Switzerland are located like 1 kilometer away, again, surrounded by 6,000 households. They don't give it a second. They support their local nuclear plant. So, yeah, what was the other one? The first one, BNPP. Yes, it is politically charged and heavily invested in ideology. It was a tool to demonize the Marcos administration, and that sticks. But my request to President Duterte was, I gave you the documentation to show that these plants are valid for the next 80 years. If we don't want to activate them now, let's preserve them anyway. Because with all the nuclear happening in the world today, it's a matter of time before people change their minds. Like, for example, Bangladesh is building right now the equivalent of 4 BNPPs, which will be running in a year from now, right? So, nagiging kulelat na naman tayo, no? So, preserve it. It costs only $1 million, a little more, to preserve it for a year. That $1 million is recoverable in 1 to 2 days of operation. No, so let's preserve that. Let attitudes change, and then let's look for SMR sites or full-size nuclear plant sites in all other coastal provinces of the country. Let's give them an incentive. Let's allow them free electricity for their provincial needs for the 80-year life of a nuclear power plant, right? I think that's only about 2% of the output of the nuclear power plant. It's affordable, and then that's how to get nuclear attractive to Filipinos. That's what I'm doing now. Alpas Pinas, going around provinces, trying to convince provincial boards to invite the national government to locate in their province in exchange for free electricity for decades. Yeah.
Galing, Mark. Galing. At least that's the national advocacy. In this audience, we have, I guess, Leo works with Zamoras kasi, so they can offer their island in Samar. And then I guess Jomi Francisco of the DMCI group can also offer or for
actually,
consideration.
Si Alan Ortiz, di ba?
Yes, the late Alan, yes.
Yes, he died because of COVID in France, di ba?
Yes.
One of his ideas was because it would serve 2 main islands, right? And I don't know what the status of the coal there is, but kumukonti na yata or mahirap ng mahal ng i-mine, di ba? So it could be Eastern Visayas energy hub.
Excellent. So we can work with you on that. Jomi, take note na lang, then me on separately. We can
MCI. Actually, I wanted to make an appointment with Sid, to talk about this.
Right.
Ang question niya, saan ko ibebenta yung kuryente kung wala akong PPA, di ba? Pero you have a big advantage kasi ang baba ng cost mo. Baba ng cost mo.
Right. So baka pwedeng joint venture to ng Jomi. Go ahead, Jomi.
It's been mentioned in meetings. I've heard it. I've heard the idea of a nuclear plant bounced around. We know it's not just. Oh, go ahead.
No, can I say something really quick? No, Bataan must stand. Being a former soldier, kailangan paglaban ng Bataan.
Yeah.
Because opportune day today.
Especially today. No, so for me, I think Bataan is really the best way to do it. No, but as Mark said,
kumbinsihin si Abet Garcia dapat makubi. At saka si Bishop.
Diba?
No, sige. No, I just found out.
Sige. Pero maganda nga yung strategy ni Mark nga. Diba? If we can get Bataan, great. But if not, at least we'll maintain it and then we'll get other islands to pilot it.
We have to move on. Agreed. Agreed.
Ang nakakatawa sa Catholic Church, yung previous Pope, si Pope Benedict, pro-nuclear, especially ang paniwala niya makakatulong sa mahirap sa mundo. Itong si Pope Francis, hindi pa klaro kung ano ang firm stand niya, pero yung Laudito Si niya na binitawang mga salita, I think nuclear is very conformative with the goals of Laudito Si. And then ang ating mga local bishop, super kontra, but the only reason that I can see is ginawa ni Marcos. No, yung merits ayaw pag-usapan. Sana kung makagawa tayo ng forum with the bishops and the priests and we can really go on point by point, technical point by point. Ito for example, dalawang this is at 380 ba? 380 page study by the joint ano ba ito? Anyway, European Commission to, JRC, Science and Policy Report. Gumawa sila ng taxonomy kasi ng fundable energy projects sa Europe. Kung hindi ka kasali sa taxonomy report, taxonomy list ng EU, you cannot be funded by the EU in Europe for as an energy source. So the issue was, will nuclear do no significant harm? No, in 2020 lang nabuo yung taxonomy sa Europe. Ngayon, nagbuo sila ng committee, joint research committee, to study this question. This is so pro-nuclear. It's not funny. And these are anti-nuclear countries who put the committee together to study this. So I think this is worth reading for everybody, no? Dito rin nakalagay na yung Generation 2 nuclear plants like our BNPP is as safe wind turbine plants is comparable. So yun, I think you need to look at these things. Even the United States last year recently lifted the ban on financing of nuclear facilities. The International Development Finance Corporation, sumali ang US Congress sa meeting ng kanilang about interpretation of their charter. And pinush ng US Congress na buksan nila ulit ang international financing for nuclear. Exim Bank, US Exim Bank is again open. USAID, you can get funding for studies about nuclear plants and siting. So yun, yeah. So nuclear insurance, no? The myth is it's uninsurable. Hindi po totoo yan. Ang average premium ng nuclear plant site sa Amerika is $1.3 million per year. Ang yield niyan kung may aksidente is $450 million per year. Gustong-gusto ng insurance companies ang nuclear industry kasi walang claims. Wala halos claims to, no? So almost pure profit, no? Well, there's the Price-Anderson Act in the United States which says that beyond a certain the state will be the last recourse, no, for liability. Pero to say that there's no insurance for nuclear, hindi totoo yan. Meron pang first year and second year insurance up to $131 million per reactor, no? And then ano pa ba? Here. Merong international supplementary compensation developed by EA. It's the CSC. This provides an extra $57 million. Now, since it was worked on since 1997, established and entered into force on April 15 of 2015. So lumalaki itong fund na ito. Nagko-contribute dyan lahat ng nuclear plants sa mundo. So yun, I think these are not known.
Sounds exciting. I guess it's just what we have to do to get there. No?
Yeah.
Mark, the next question is from Armand. Armand is a LG official from our beloved Makati. Armand?
Yes.
JC?
Yes po. Next would be Peter Wallace.
Actually, my question is very similar to Layer Ingens, and you've answered some of them already. To be very honest, I was part of the Parliament of the Streets that opposed nuclear power plant in the 80s. I was 26 years old then, and I was a member of Atom August 21 movement. Now, we were opposing it on two grounds, the technical side and the political side and all that. So yung technical, you've answered extensively, but political and the emotional and those social side, like there were alleged corruption which resulted in shortcuts on the safety features of the plant, the scare tactics made by, as you said, the church and other cost-oriented groups on the people around Bataan, their children getting cancer, their children getting leukemia, the danger of radioactive leaks, and even the danger of this plant falling into the wrong hands, which may result in weapons, no? So, ang ano ko is, if we will listen at your technical discourse, it's really a very advantageous thing. But I think you have to bring it down to the level of the masses. Kasi those things, yeah, whatever you discussed this morning, tago sa kanila eh.
Yeah.
It doesn't bring anything to them. It's not, for them, it's very near the gut. It's very near, kailangan malapit sa bituka and all that. So I don't know if you have any mechanism at all to because at the end of the day, once they get incited or once they get inspired, or they will react on different levels. I'll be against it, but if you come up with a very nice communication plan, match for it, and I think that solves the problem. It's also a big part political.
Yes, definitely. Yes. I'm not a communications expert, no. I'm not pretending to be. That's why actually there's a lady helping me. She Gail, na formerly worked in advertising. She's helping me pro bono. Pero we're a really tiny group, no. I'm open to any suggestions here or help. Alpas Pinas will accept donations. I mean, limited kami sa funding. Lahat ng kilos nito, ako mismo galing sa bulsa ko, ginagastos ko, no. Pero I cannot sustain a major campaign like that. Ang masasabi ko lang, I think half-price electricity is a major gut issue. I think jobs is a major gut issue for people. So it will have to circle around the economy, no? What is the increased potential of the economy to grow kung mura ang kuryente, kung malinis ang kuryente? Regarding, have to ay higit sang daang. Kasi po, walang makukuha sa ang terorista. Ilan bang mapapatay na tao? No? Baka wala. Kasi power plant. Pag sumabog ba yung nuclear plant, may kakalat na makakamatay ng napakaraming tao? Sa palagay ko po, hindi. Kasi nakita natin sa Fukushima, no? A triple meltdown, no? And yet, the average radiation there today is less than the natural background in Seattle or in Denver. The hottest hotspots in Fukushima today, which is right near the plant, are 8 times lower than at Guarapari Beach in Brazil because of the natural thorium in the beach. Right? So these are natural sources compared to actual accidents. The prophecies of apocalypse in Chernobyl. So from 1986 until today, there has been an agency keeping track of the mortality in Chernobyl. And it was a privilege for me to meet the founder of the Chernobyl Tissue Bank. They study cancer there. What is the casualty, the total casualty of Chernobyl from 1986 until today? It's less than 50 people. Most of them first responders, no, 30 plus first responders. The balance, they got thyroid cancer because the government did not immediately give out iodine pills, no. And after 30 days, iodine 131 is completely gone because the half-life of iodine 131 is only 8 days. So if they had given immediately, so that the body would not absorb, they kept giving milk from the cows that were there. So the milk was laden with iodine 131. Siyempre, pumasok sa mga bata. Siyempre, some of them got cancer. But it was completely preventable. Yun ang punto, no? Corruption sa BNPP. Alam nyo, batas sa Amerika na walang pwedeng lumabas na nuclear parts or for a nuclear plant from America if it does not get the stamp of approval of US NRC. And the contract was turnkey Westinghouse, no? So kung merong, siguro, sabi mo may corruption sa local contractor, patong hindi kaltas, kasi imposible sa daming mata nakatingin sa IAEA, sa Westinghouse, US Navy, etc., US NRC, paano mong babawasan ang quality nun? Hindi magagawa. So, pwede sigurong patungan. Pero when you compare our plant to the of Cory 2, it's contemporary, it's in the ballpark. Ito pa, the foundations for BNPP2 are already in place. They're already there. And civil works of nuclear plants account for 60 to 70% of the total investment in nuclear power plants. Right? So, these are, I'm not saying there's no corruption, no? Pero I'm just saying, what happened after TMI? Nagkaroon ng Puno Commission, which mandated changes to the nuclear plant. Yung sinasabi nilang thousands of defects. When I investigated that, when I was still congressman, those turned out to be FCNs, field change notices. You know, when you buy a camera from any manufacturer, sa manual nakalagay, technical specs subject to change without prior notice. So Westinghouse said, okay, because of TMI, we need to change the location of these cable trays, right? In nuclear quality build, every single change has to be documented. Kasi ganun ang traceability. No? So, yun, hindi po yun defects. Korea said, we will run our plant as is without changes. And they did. And their plant ran well. Tayo, we still followed the Puno Commission mandates, which mandated changes. So our plant is safer than Cory 2.
Ed, may I follow up?
Thank you, Mark.
Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah, may I follow up?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the technical aspect is so, okay and all that. But what you have to overcome, I think, coming from my experience of the Parliament of Districts and all that, what you have to overcome are the emotional and the political concerns, which you can answer naman, ano? Like, I think the ones who are opposing, if ever, this BNPP now, are the ones who opposed it 35 years ago or 40 years ago. And I think that number one is you have to get the church on your side. And number two, I think that's a very big ano. And then there are a lot of things to overcome. But in
Yes.
terms of the technical aspect, you've answered all of them. It's
Oh, it's
really winning
this
the
part,
hearts and
the
the
emotional
minds
is
of
very
the
important.
ordinary people so that they will
Tumulong po kayo kasi kayo ang mas expert po
Oh,
dyan.
sige.
Kayo ang
We will
tumulong.
ask your advice pag if this pushes through for to bring it forward.
Yung Atom, yung attorney, I forget his name. He was part of that yung sa old Padilla ba or Atom siya noon eh. He's now pro-nuclear, heavily pro-nuclear. Yeah.
I'm a Padilla also.
Okay.
But not related to them.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, pero Arman, we'll rely on your help. Baka you can guide us nga sige, when we get to that stage. Yeah, but that's it. Very important. Thank you.
Can I add?
JC, maybe we can entertain si Ernie Pantanco because he might have to leave in a while now. He just made a request. JC.
Hi, Ed. Mark, thank you for accommodating. Sorry, I have to go in a while. I just have a comment and a question. My comment, I think this was mentioned before. KEPCO did a study on the Bataan nuclear plant refurbishment, and the cost indicated then was 1.15 billion for a 620 megawatt power plant. No? That translates to approximately about $1,800 per megawatt, per kilowatt, sorry, to refurbish it. No? My question is this. I think, firstly, the other comment is that, maybe you should look at the statistics. Our ASEAN neighbors also have nuclear plants. No? So,
No,
personally,
not a single one.
Not a single one. Taiwan has a nuclear plant. Then I think Indonesia, Malaysia has.
No.
But anyway, my point is this. I think we should consider, in order to have a diversification of our fuel mix in our country today. No? But my comment is this and question. My concern is that by refurbishing the Bataan nuclear plant, it's not really going to be cost competitive compared with new builds, of other power plants. We can discuss this more in detail subsequently. But the cost per megawatt or cost per kilowatt to refurbish it is something that would be better off if we were to consider, let's say, other types. I think this was mentioned before. Other types of nuclear compact nuclear reactors, which I think the DOE has studied and has submitted a report to President Duterte, I understand. So the first point is really cost competitiveness. I think saying that Bataan can operate at 2 pesos or thereabouts with generation cost, subject to verification. But I think if you have a more compact for our islands such as Cebu, Mindanao, etc., that would be a better alternative. The second point, and I'm sure you're aware of this, we have to amend our constitution in order.
No, we don't.
Because it's
Yeah.
still part of the, and that I guess getting something through Congress at this point in time is something that we'd like to help out, but the thing is, getting an amendment to a constitution is both daunting and challenging. So
No, there's no need. There's no amendment required.
okay. So anyway, those
The Constitution bars the use of nuclear for weapons, but it promotes the use of nuclear for peaceful means. So there's no constitutional ban whatsoever on nuclear power because nuclear power is defined as a peaceful use.
Okay. So anyway, those are just my 2 comments. Thank you.
Yes. And on the cost, what's the cost of building a 620 megawatt greenfields coal plant or gas plant today? you'll find that the cost to commission BNPP is a bargain compared to this. And if you want to look at I think EIA, in Energy Information Agency of the United States, is a very credible source for costing. No, if you look at their cost, it's 2.6 US cents per kilowatt hour on their fully amortized plants. So, I mean, how long will it take to amortize $1 billion from 620 megawatts? In no time, it will be amortized. So after that, for up to 80 years, I mean, it's gravy all the way, right? I think that's how it should be looked at.
Congressman? Thanks, Ed. I'm sorry, but I have to go, but thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congressman, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
Yeah. I'm Albert de la Cruz. Hanga po ako sa activeness ninyo and your passion towards nuclear energy program. I am into renewable energy. I'm one of the board of directors of PNOCRC. I just do not know kung meron po kaming mga kasama dito na taga DOE. But just to inform the group, the DOE now is currently proceeding with the unified and coordinated efforts and activities with the creation of the Nuclear Energy Program Implementing Organization. At during our meeting with Secretary Cusi, he is into it. Gusto niya ang nuclear energy at masaya po ako that you mentioned na uranium is a kind of renewable energy. With that po, if we may invite you in one of our Zoom meeting, together with the other board of directors of PNOC Renewable Corporation, so that we can join effort in your passion, activeness, and all the effort that you're doing for our country.
Galing.
Thank you.
Boss
Thank you so
Marketing
much.
will work with PNOC. Tama. With
Yeah. Actually, I'm listening to you. I really do not know na ganyan po kayo passionate and the science behind, everything. Alam ko po, magaling yung Cojuangco sa negosyo. Hindi ko alam na ganyan kayo kagaling, pati sa science. So, with that po, if I may, one of these days we'll be inviting you for us to join forces. PNOCRC, as subsidiary of the Department of PNOC Mother, under the umbrella of Department of Energy, through the leadership of Secretary Cusi, we are one with you in spirit, and we are one with you. Actually, even our President, Duterte, is one with us. He is also looking into the possibility of using nuclear power as part of the umbrella of renewable energy.
It is our prayer, Alpas Pinas prayer, that the President will at least mention nuclear in his last SONA this July. Sana po, kahit one sentence lang about nuclear in July will open the debate and the conversation of nuclear in the Philippines.
Actually po, Congressman, may statement na po ang DOE with regards the use of nuclear power. And if I may, ang sabi po dito, the Duterte administration through the Department of Energy puts premium on the provisions of quality, reliable, adequate, secure, and reasonably priced energy by looking all possible resources that the country can utilize to achieve our industrialization goals, such as nuclear energy. Malinaw po yan.
That's great. Good to know, sir. Sir, we'll just get your details later para we can arrange the subsequent meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your passion.
Galing. Yan, at least may next steps tayo dyan.
Opo, thank you
Mark,
po.
thank you. Mark, we have two more questions if you can still
Yes.
entertain, and then we should close kasi
Yes,
11:10
yes.
na. We
Yes.
have Eric Cruz and then Mr. Peter Wallace. Eric?
Yes.
Congressman, just two questions. Is there already a defined national nuclear policy by the government?
Actually, there was a NEPIAC set up, no, nuclear interagency committee, no, that did a study. So this DNR, DOST, DOF, etc. They looked at nuclear to recommend whether it should be included in the energy mix, and the report was submitted to the president before Christmas, and it was only publicly announced by DOST Secretary De La Fuente late February, no? So ang tagal, no? From the time it was De La Peña, I'm sorry, from December to February. So there's no pronouncement yet from the office of the president whether they agree with it or not, no? What worries me is that permits and contracts are being issued for our needs, our energy needs, coal and gas. I think beyond 2030 already. And what space will be left for nuclear? What we requested from the president was that the government allow at least or target 10% nuclear in our mix by 2030. But if all these spaces are already allocated to fossil fuels, ano pang space ang matitira? So when are we going to finally seriously consider, doing it? Yun ang concern po namin.
Okay, so hopefully we can have that policy in place, right? Because that should provide the framework for not only Bataan but all others, right?
Yes.
And
yes,
the Bataan nuclear power
plant
actually an asset now of Napo. Is it a Napocor asset or is it still?
No, it's a Republic of the Philippines asset being held by DOF, but assigned to Napocor for maintenance and safekeeping. So it's under DOF. It's owned by the Republic of the Philippines. It's fully paid for. It's debt free. But Napocor is the caretaker, the technical caretaker.
So will it now be the DOF to provide the full support to?
Actually, si Secretary DOF, anong pangalan? Dominguez, yes. He's pro nuclear power because he doesn't want to see an asset that's already paid for be wasted.
Go to waste, yeah, right?
Yes, so pabor siya. Kaya lang, as far as he's concerned, it's DOE that needs to take the lead, no? And for me, it should graduate beyond DOE. The president should give a clear message that yes, this is good for the economy, for the country, for our long-term energy security and independence. And yes, we should have these hard physical targets of X% by this year, by this year, by this year. It's the only time that the entire country will take it seriously when the executive department unambiguously states that nuclear is good for the country. Just like the Japanese are doing.
Yeah. So I think we probably will need to spend a lot of time getting the executive department to release that nuclear policy or to put it in place.
The president is a political animal, and any other president will be political animal. So it's really the ability to move the country forward is really in the hands of opinion makers and the public. So how do you get it's chicken and egg thing? So, so I'm open
agree,
to
Mark.
also.
In fact, yeah. Even
Okay.
yung point ni Arman Padilla of getting the masses supportive is very important.
Yes.
Sige, maybe as the
Thank you.
last question,
Thank you.
thank you, Eric. Maybe last question we can entertain is for Mr. Peter Wallace.
Yes,
famous
yes,
columnist. Peter?
I'm honored that he's asking me questions.
And a Filipino.
Mark.
He's a Filipino. Go ahead.
Yes,
Peter.
hello, Peter.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. I'm
Yes.
not sure so much a question as a few statements.
Yes.
Firstly, can I get a copy of your charts? I will try and do a column on this later on. If you'd send me
Yes,
the
I can
showing
send
briefly then. Yeah.
Yes, I can show you. I can share with you pictures I have.
Yep.
Yeah, also even of decommissioned plants in America, and stuff they're saying is impossible, but it's actually not. I mean, so I'll
Okay.
send you what I have.
Thank you.
Main points anyway. Yeah.
Yep. Phoenix has my address. Yeah, I'm actually living on a storage facility. I'm on Lake Kaliraya. Been here for a year now, and
Okay.
I know what's happening to electricity because I look at the level of the water. Is it going down as demand goes up, or is it
Okay.
or is there not demand? So I got a
Yes.
good idea. I'm very pro-nuclear, and as you and Albert and several others have mentioned, so is Kusi and the president. So we've
Yeah.
got the right people on side. Kusi has been undertaking a study of the BNPP for some time now. I don't know if the result is out yet, but I know he did commission a group, independent group, to look into the viability of reviving BNPP. So I think that's a very important study to have in deciding whether we go ahead with BNPP or not.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think it's definitely worth looking at and considering, and gets very high chance of doing. There are two issues on nuclear power: safety and storage, and we've to some degree covered both. But on safety, there's one number. We also mentioned on PR. There's no Armin mentioned this particularly, and I think this is a major point. We have to get the masses on side. We have to get away from this fear of nuclear as being dangerous. I don't remember the exact number now, but in the past 50 years, it's something like about 150 people have died from nuclear accidents. That's how many
less than 50. Yeah, less than 50 total.
Less than 50. Okay.
Yes.
Every hour in the world, every hour, 154 people die on the roads from motor car accidents. Every hour. In that 50 years, 68 million people have died on motor cars. Which is safer, nuclear power or motor cars?
Yeah.
I think it's very clear. And yet everyone still drives in motor cars. There's no question that nuclear power is safe. Storage, we did discuss a little, and you did bring up what's happening in Switzerland. There are now safe solutions for long-term storage of waste, and we can do that. That should not be a problem. I would also like to see more study done of the small nuclear plants, the modular. You mentioned probably not for another 20 years, but no, I don't think that's correct. Bill Gates has said by the late 20s, he will have his small modular plants available to the market. So we're talking probably 6, 7, 8 years before we have them. And I think they're going to be the future solution.
Yes.
So we can have BNPP, but we're going to need more power than that. There's no question that, I don't know the time frame, 30 years, 50 years, all nuclear, all power must be renewable. It can't be solar and wind because they aren't base load. And we have to have base load power. We have to replace the coal and gas will have to be replaced within the next 50 years or less. And nuclear is the only viable one at this point. Solar and wind eventually will be baseload when somebody comes up with a battery, which is not on the horizon yet. But as of now, the batteries aren't there. And also solar and wind use a lot of land. A nuclear plant occupies a very small piece of land. Solar and wind, huge amounts of land in a country where we don't have a lot of spare land. And so they're not really the viable solution alternative. But as Armin says, I think the biggest thing we have to worry about, our biggest problem is public perception. And we need a massive PR campaign to get across that that nuclear is safe so that it will be accepted. And Mark, I liked your idea of providing free power to the province or the local area that allows the plants. That's quite a smart, clever little thing to do and would help to do it. So well done. I think what you have done today is an excellent presentation, given a lot of people time to think again and rethink where they stand on nuclear power. And I hope we're all convinced, as I am, that this is the way to go. Thank you, Mark. Very good.
Thank you, Peter. Great honor coming from you. Yeah, solar and wind for me are Trojan horses of the gas industry because without the batteries, you need to back them up, and you need to build the gas plants for them. So if our ultimate intention is to leave fossil fuels behind, doing solar and wind is actually making them more permanent. So I think we need to look at that. The rest of what you said, right on. I mean, you hit the nails on the head. Big debate going on now in Australia about nuclear. I think the people are becoming more informed, especially a lot of Australian environmentalists now arguing for nuclear rather than against. What else did I want to say? There was one more thing. Anyway, senior moment. I'm a senior citizen now, so I'm entitled to lapses. I wanted to say something. I completely forgot what I wanted to say. Yeah.
I'm a lot more senior than you are, I think.
Okay. Yeah, but I think yes, the nuclear answers for the hope of Filipinos to have the means to end poverty and to achieve some prosperity. If we had half-price electricity, I think we're well on the way to opening up so much opportunities for the people in industry, in business, in so many things. Even to make electricity a slave for people. The washing machine, right? Liberating women, right? If it's cheap enough, the refrigerator. How many homes have I gone to in the provinces that, hey, nice refrigerator, why isn't it running? Well, because my kuya is not home from abroad, right? And I can't afford the electricity of the refrigerator, right? So, we need to, before, the slavery made some people comfortable in life. No more slavery now. Let's make electricity the slaves of people. It cannot happen unless electricity is cheap. So, there.
Yep, I agree.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Yes.
Sorry, I think we wanted to close, but there was just one special request, pahabol na question. JC,
Yes.
maybe you can entertain the last question, Mr. Glenn Villaroman from the UP College. Last na lang, Mark.
Thank you, Ed, for the opportunity para sa pahabol. Congratulations, Congressman Mark. I'm very happy that we have such a passionate and knowledgeable proponent for nuclear energy, which I truly believe in from the very beginning. We have covered a lot of areas here in discussion, and it is great to know that you have all the answers to the safety questions that could possibly be thrown to you. Now, it is my opinion lang, my personal opinion, that it might be a better solution, even with the high cost of bringing it up to speed to operate the BNPP, to be a showcase for the safety and the benefits of nuclear power. Now, because I think yung may papakita naman ninyo yung economic benefits, as you mentioned earlier, lower energy cost is actually one of the building blocks for economic development.
And you can actually, I think you may have already the data to show the ROI even with the, I think, $2 billion
Yes.
cost to bring it up
Yes.
to operational capacity. You
Yeah.
can show the benefits, especially when you consider the benefits that don't exactly
Yeah, well,
the bottom line, ano?
yeah.
Kasi marami namang industries that will benefit in lower energy costs. So one of the things that we can show is that how it benefits other industries, like let's say agriculture. With the pandemic, food production, you know, processing costs rely heavily on energy costs also. So it's something that can be shown how beneficial it can be to not only just for lower energy costs but benefits for other industries as well. And to just briefly touch on yung comment ni Armand on how we need to uh, win the hearts and minds of the people. Now, I like the idea that you had of offering free electricity this time of the pandemic where people are experiencing economic difficulties. It will be a welcome tulong to our countrymen in Bataan if that can be made available to them. And maybe by showing them that it is safe, that it can be a model so that we won't have problems when we try to establish other plants in other parts of the country. So
Yes, yes. Yes, tama po lahat yan, ano. Yung PNRI is working hard on the other aspects of nuclear technology, medicine, agriculture, pest control, right? Determining fake products in the market. They've done a lot in the last few years, no? Lalo na sa field of medicine. So, yeah, agree po ako dyan. BNPP, yes, yun na nga, politically affected. Maingay yung linya. Teka, ikaw baka. I think kung wala pa yung BNPP, yeah, I wanted about the studies, no, yung financial studies. Ang capability lang namin sa ngayon is back of the envelope studies, no? Pero yun na nga, no, if we can ask sana if a credible enough agency of government could request for maybe USAID funding for honest to goodness financial analysis of bringing nuclear online, no? Maybe BNPP, maybe an SMR in a province somewhere, that would help a lot kasi we don't have the resources. Alpas Pinas does not have the resources to do that. We need help there. So yeah, like I said at the beginning, welcome din namin na may mag-contribute sa amin ng resources. Kasi lahat ng kilos po namin, kahit anong gawin mo, may gastos ka no? Marketing wise, study or what, may gastos talaga yan So, yun, kung merong tutulong, yes, and kung merong agency talaga na magre-request. Kasi the USAID will never help you unless you ask for their help. Sino ba naman kami to request from USAID? Dapat ahensya ng gobyerno or institution ng like UP maybe could request USAID for assistance on making a study, no? Yun.
Thank you very much and more power to your efforts.
Thank you po. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, maybe we can close. Would you like to
Yes.
give your closing remarks? And then,
yes, I thank everybody for attending these many hours of information exchange. no one entity can do it alone. We have to convince the public of the benefits. And I think the benefits of nuclear are very clear, especially in the Philippine context, because we can, for me, the biggest benefits are the elimination of all the fuel shipping infrastructure, which is huge. The forex cost of fuel, right? We send our OFWs, our kamag-anaks abroad, to earn forex. And then we turn around and burn a big chunk of it in panggatong for electricity, rather than investing it or being able to buy materials with it from abroad, giving us the means to build our infrastructure to better our country. So for me, that's a big waste of money. Now, that's aside from the potential of nuclear to give half-price electricity. Like I said, EIA, the data is all there. 2.6 US cents per kilowatt hour from fully amortized nuclear plants. How can you argue against that? Emissions that are, 8 times lower than wind or solar when you consider that these are backed up by natural gas. Right there is a big, big difference. If the target of environmentalists are to be clean, nuclear is the answer. Why are they not embracing it? Does it bring to light? Is it a basis to question their sincerity? Earth hour, right? 600 megawatts, 2010 record ever savings for 1 hour. 600 megawatt hours in the 1 hour of Earth hour of that year. If that was BNPP, you would have an Earth hour effect 24 times a day for 365 days a year. That's 8,000 Earth hours in a year without turning off a single light bulb. So in other words, this idea that the only way to preserve the Earth is to impose poverty or impose it doesn't fly with me. We can have both. We can preserve the earth and be prosperous at the same time. If we had an energy source that did not emit anything, and that's nuclear power. So I hope that everybody here could do their bit to help the country to convince your family, your friends, in weddings, in Friday night, in beer. When the talk goes to energy, nobody stands up for nuclear. I hope you can help us stand up for nuclear. Thank you.
Galing. So ladies and gentlemen, MAP, Phoenix, Sharefield, and of course, my beloved UP7, thank you for joining us. We learned so much today. I think like you guys, you're probably as impressed as I am at Mark's knowledge on the technical and the economic side and all the data. So I guess we're all now believers. It's just a question of is it Bataan? Is it a mini one? And then I guess we
XMR.
have to realize our SMR. But the challenge really is we have to work together and support him. At least ang takeaways natin nito is that thank you to the gentleman from PNOC Renewable Corp. Hopefully, Mark, Rufy, you can meet with them immediately because
yes.
I was just thinking parang the best entity to request for aid would be dapat government. PNOC RC
Yes.
Renewable Corp would be the best because at least in this audience pa lang, we have people from the MVP group, the MCI group, and even the Zamora group very interested. But I don't know the process lang. Baka na naman, even if they come up with an unsolicited bid, hindi pansinin. So importante muna nga yata yung nuclear policy as what Eric Cruz said. And then,
well,
let
me tell
study, diba? Then, but the private sector will be very interested because syempre lower power naman, and if they can make a decent return, it's good for the country. So and then so ladies and gentlemen, I know you've requested for the PowerPoint, so whatever slides that Mark can share with us, I will just share with you when they give it to me.
Yeah.
And then and then hopefully this will be the first of more meetings. But maybe Edith, I'll ask your help, and Peter, because maybe now you can bring this now to the Phoenix or the MAP, and Ernie also to the MAP stage. So we'll have a bigger audience. But at least you see that this initial fireside chat, now we were targeting 10 to 15 people, blossomed to 55 people kanina. And all of you, it's already, instead of 1.5 hours, naging 2.5 hours. I thank also Dixon, Joel, and the rest of our friends from Mark, from galing from East Coast. So 11:30 their time, gising pa sila just to listen to you. So maraming salamat.
Thank you.
So with that, Rufy, any last words? And then we can just close.
No, just one last item which was left out. No, and that is the human resource for the Filipino. Ma-upgrade natin ang skills ng Filipino. The Filipinos never failed, whether it be the field of medicine, pilots, military. No? So if you have a nuclear industry, ma-upgrade. We will get better paying jobs. Right? So it's really for the Filipino in all aspects. Safety, finance, no, and even their skills. No, so maraming salamat for everyone. No, and Elcor, thank you. And I just saw that I even have an engineer from China. So Jordan, thank you for coming.
Wow, excellent. Thank
Salamat.
you.
Yes.
Okay.
Last.
Go ahead, Mark. Yes, last na
Yeah,
po.
yung sinabi lang ni Rufy, no. Nuclear will drive a culture of safety and quality. Maybe if we ran BNPP in 1985, maybe the LRTs would not have fallen off the tracks, right? Because the driving force is pervasive to all the support industries, right? So, and it is imposed internationally, imposed on us. So you cannot hide anything in the nuclear industry. Your peers will report you. The IAEA will report you. So you cannot do shortcuts. The entire world is watching you when you're involved in the nuclear industry. So it will drive quality, equality, and a safety culture. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and happy Bataan Day. Tama, no? Bataan Day. Which is this an appropriate seminar. Okay, be safe. Have a good long weekend, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Salamat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Dan, JC, favor. Tayong at least tayo nila Rufy, or maybe I hope you're just taking pictures of everybody para may for
yes po. We can ask them to open their videos.
I don't know who's still there. Whoever's still there, just turn on your cameras, and then maybe you can just take pictures. It's just for the scrapbook man lang. And at least tayong 4 na 6, di ba? We should, at tayo rin should have our souvenir. You know?
Yes po. Okay.
Okay. And then kayo na lang bahala to take the pictures. Basta whoever's still there. Thanks.
Okay. Meron na po.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Ed.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.